Alrighty, guys. Hey, everybody. This is Justin from Baseball and Whatever. There's Greg. There's Vinny. We have a special edition podcast interview. We are pretty psyched. We have Cody Delmendo from CHGO and more importantly CHGO Cubs, which is my wheelhouse. I know we had Herb on a few weeks ago to talk about the White Sox. Cody, real quick before we get started, I got to ask, did you guys do a wellness check on Herb and Sean and Vinny after that Tony La Russa debacle today?
I didn't go in the office today, so I did not do a wellness check, though I did tune into the White Sox post-game show for, I don't know, a few minutes, and it was mainly at the beginning because I knew they were going to start it off with, the whole Tony La Russa walking Trey Turner thing. I mean, it was all over social media, but clearly they were angry. So,
I was going to say, when you have Sean Anderson dropping F-bombs first thing, I'm like, when he gets all riled up, it's going to be a good one. And Herb's hollow. So,
right. Yeah. Especially when Sean, I feel like Sean, he doesn't get as angry as Herb or even like me if we want to switch it to Cubs. Sean is I feel like he is mellow and it takes a lot for him to get really angry. I've seen him angry before, but it's not a consistent thing. If the White Sox lose and we are all watching usually the Sox and Cubs are playing around the same time, right?
Right.
Whenever me and Luke are there and Sean and Herb are there and the Sox are losing, Herb is very, very animated, yes, in my opinion. And I'm the most animated when the Cubs are losing for the Cubs. And Sean is he'll get angry, but I feel like he just kind of self-loathes a little bit and just kind of expect the worst. And so I feel like in a way he doesn't get as angry because he just expects it, because I assume his expectations are lower than what a lot of White Sox fans are right now. So in a way, it's a really good defense mechanism. I'm just not built like that. I can't do that.
That's understandable.
I think I'm with you there. And I only think, really quick on Sean, I've heard him get mad twice. One time was on Locked On Sox, the other was today, at least on a podcast. I don't know him, but to hear him like that, so I'm like, oh, I know it's going to be a good one. And like I said, Herb's soon to follow with his stuff. So it's always good listening. So
yeah, they're great.
Well, before we get started, if you haven't heard of Cody before, first of all, I don't know what you're doing, but he is the Cubs and betting content creator at CHGO. You can find him at Cody_CHGO and at CHGO_Cubs. You guys are killing it. I mean, CHGO has kind of turned into my go-to for post-game, whether it be the Hawks or the Cubs, or to be honest, I'll even put the Sox on just to hear Herb and Sean and Vinny kind of give their take on it. But you guys are killing it.
Thanks.
I can't say enough good things. The website, the content you guys are writing and putting together has been excellent. But I guess without further ado, Vinny, you want to kick this off?
Sure. Cody, thanks for joining us. I'm also a Cubs fan first. I do root for the White Sox, so I'm kind of split.
In Vinny's defense, he's in Madison, though, so it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I like your Ernie Banks jersey in the back there. That's cool.
There.
Thank you. But for me, being introduced to the Cubs and my Cub fandom kind of began with the summer of '98. Growing up and seeing Sammy Sosa go for the record. Where did it begin for you?
You basically just said my part too. I'm 31, so I feel like millennials around my age, if they're Cubs fans, I feel like Sammy Sosa kind of took them and then they rode with it. I would have been a Cubs fan either way because my mom and my grandpa was a diehard, and I had an uncle who was a real diehard too, who growing up in Cardinal Nation. And I didn't grow up in St. Louis, but I grew up in downstate Illinois, where you're either a Cubs or a Cardinals fan, and the large majority are Cardinals fans when I was growing up, because the Cubs just weren't good. Obviously. So, and Cardinals fans had McGuire, and then Pujols came around because the baseball gods love the Cardinals and stuff like that. And they just like my misery and all of that. So, Sammy Sosa really made me a Cubs fan, but I would have been one anyway. And then I always think back to when I really became a baseball fan. It was more so in 2001 during the World Series when the Diamondbacks and the Yankees faced off, and they went 7 games and Luis Gonzalez got that game-winning hit.
Yep.
That's when I really, really became a baseball fan. Like I was like 8 or 9 years old in 1998, and I remember Sammy Sosa hitting all those homers and stuff, and like it became like a rivalry for me and like my friends at school. Like I went to a really small school, like literally like 70 kids in my class.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Wow,
I grew up in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by cornfields. But the whole Cubs Cardinals rivalry became a thing with me, and starting in '98, whenever me and Cardinals fans or whoever were always arguing like who's better, Sosa or McGuire, and then I really, really didn't dive into like being an actual baseball fan until after I watched that World Series and after everything, after 9/11 and everything. So
Sure.
after that World Series, that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch the Cubs a hell of a lot more now, or at least try to. And even as a kid, like it obviously was tough, but I'm glad I did, because then I really, really got my very first like heartbreak in 2003 from thanks to Alex Gonzalez. Everyone wants to talk about Bartman, but it was definitely because of Alex Gonzalez. But that's kind of how it all started for me, was like I said, in '98. But a lot went into really becoming like the diehard that I am now.
Yeah, that '98 season, I still remember. I don't want to admit this, but growing up in Little League, I was a huge Sox fan. I loved Ray Durham because I played second base. And then 1998 happened, Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout game. I was like, oh, forget the White Sox. I'm all in on Kerry Wood, Kid K, and then never looked back, and I'm like, I feel like you get maybe one switch if you're from Chicago, but you can't go back after that.
Sean was a Cubs fan at one point and
really
then switched to the White Sox. I believe he switched to the White Sox after the cork bat thing with Sosa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
again, and he's a lot younger than me, so like he's a young kid, and that happened, and the White Sox won in 2005, so he decided to be a White Sox fan. So yeah, in a way, I get it.
I was waiting for you to say like right before the 2005 World Series is when he switched.
I want to say it was right before. I don't want to call him a straight up bandwagon fan, but if it was after 2005, I mean, they've had a lot of pain since then. So it's like, he's earned his pinstripes or whatever you want to call him now.
Yeah. That's, oh boy, that is, well, Greg can attest to that.
Yeah, I know. I could say plenty of fans I know jumped on after that. And, I can say I was, always there from the beginning, but definitely the pain suffering. And today was no different, unfortunately. But
that 2003 season, during the lockout, I almost said strike. During the lockout, I kind of went down like a YouTube rabbit hole watching a bunch of old Cubs games from like early 90s, late 90s, and then 2003. And man, I forgot how fun that 2003 team was, with Pryor. And I totally forgot about Sean Estes. I couldn't tell you what Sean Estes is even doing these days. I hope he's doing well, but it was such a fun time to watch. And then obviously and like you said, you nailed it. Alex Gonzalez is the reason amidst all the other pitching problems that popped up afterwards. But poor Steve Bartman gets,
and he gets away with it too because of Bartman, so it's only the true people paying attention.
I was in like 7th or 8th grade when Bartman happened, and I mean, as a kid, I was like, what is this moron doing in the stands? What is going on? I was so mad, and again, first heartbreak of my entire life when it came to sports, and like I genuinely remember just putting all the blame on Steve Bartman that night. But then I grew up and realized, man, we were awful to that guy for doing something that literally any fan would have done.
Oh, so, yeah. I mean, anybody would have. There was a handful of people all around him reaching for it, and if any of them had grabbed it instead
Just
or touched it or whatever, and then Moises Alou making the gigantic.
That definitely didn't help.
That didn't help.
Didn't help. Yeah.
That didn't help. But
when they go, I'm assuming you've seen, his quotes. 10, 15 years later, where I think Alou said, like he publicly said, when they lost Game 6, like they knew they weren't going to lose Game 7.
I think,
like,
they bought plane tickets and stuff?
Yeah, they plane tickets and everything. I was like, man, like there was like I want to remember good things about that season. Y'all just making it even worse. Like, oh man, that's one of the things that makes 2016 so special to me, because it's like finally I can forget about Bartman. Like, I totally understand why Bartman didn't like take up the Cubs offer on coming
Sure.
and throwing out a first pitch and everything. He just wants to be left alone. Like, I don't blame him.
Mhm.
But it would have been nice closure, because I know
Yeah,
Bill
sure.
Buckner did that with the Red Sox after that era he had in '86. So yeah, it just would have been nice to have something like that for him. But again, like, especially now with social media, it's like anytime that 03 team is brought up by like major accounts, like the MLB account or anything, everyone always throws Bartman's
Piles
name out
on,
there.
yeah.
And I'm like, God, like, just let the guy live, man. Like, it is what it is, though.
We even a couple of years ago, I mean, and we're going on almost 20 years now. I remember one of my students dressed up as Bartman for Halloween one year, and I'm like, that's really good.
gosh.
But like, we're going on 20 years. I think you should probably, let him go, let him enjoy his life a little bit here. But so yeah, we can. I guess instead of talking about something so depressing as 03, we can.
Let's get back to
it all
Cody.
started. Yeah, it all started
Yeah.
with Vince asking me how I became a fan. I mean,
Yeah.
And,
unfortunately,
it
it is part of
comes
it.
up.
So.
It comes up. So.
It does happen. So I don't know. We can move on though before we get too depressed. But
so getting back to you, Cody.
Yeah.
We just want to know, was it always the dream to pursue sports journalism for you, and I guess social media and podcasting now? Tell us about that.
Yeah, guys, it's been a wild ride. Like, I don't know. Like, I wish I could just give you the straight, like, route to how I got to talk about the Cubs for a living and get paid for it. But I did go to college to be like in media. I went to Eastern Illinois University, Harvard of the Midwest, in my biased opinion. And I went there when Jimmy Garoppolo was still there, so that's I always like to tell people that.
Nice.
But when I was there, I did radio, and I did a few things for their school newspaper and that. But before I even went to school, like, honestly, I graduated high school in 2009, and I honestly didn't go off to school for like 2 years. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't when I was growing up in high school. I remember when I went to take the ACT, I did not give two fucks about it. I just was like, I'm not going to college. Like,
sure.
I was kind of like in an environment where everyone, this is like the majority of people, once they graduated high school where I grew up, they either went and worked on their family's farm. They went and worked like in Decatur, which is like 20 minutes north of where I grew up. Where you either worked for like Caterpillar or ADM or Tate and Lyle or something like that, or you left the state and you went somewhere and you did something with your life. I honestly had no idea what I was going to do. And I just didn't really have the direction. I grew up with a single mom, and my brother. And I was just kind of I was kind of forced to grow up quickly. I started like watching my brother when I was like 12 years old, and having to make sure he gets home from school and like taking care of him while my mom's at work, like busting her ass to make sure we can eat, what I mean? And stuff like that. So like, I just didn't have the resources growing up that like kind of told me or showed me what I could do or what I wanted to do. So let's see, in those 2 years before I went to Eastern, I had taken some online courses from the community college where I was close to live by. And I did that, and I worked at a grocery store stocking shelves like full time. And to be honest with you, and it blows my mind to this day, like for a year of doing that, I was like, I could do this forever. Like, this is easy shit. And I moved out and lived on my own and like was just, being an adult, I guess. But at the same time, like, I didn't realize it then, but at the same time I was like, going through all these roller coasters of being an adult because I just didn't know what I was doing. And, I moved out. Like, I was all about moving out and just like going to live my life somewhere. Right.
Sure.
And I did that. And during the process of working at this grocery store and stocking shelves, I realized that it eventually sucked. Like, eventually I realized that it sucked and I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to do a job that I felt like that I accomplished something and that I was going to be happy doing. And then I started realizing how much I watched SportsCenter like 24/7. Like back in that time, SportsCenter was something that you turned on in the morning and you would re-watch it. Like,
oh yeah,
like
all morning.
all
morning.
Just
have it on a cycle almost.
Yeah,
just have
that
it
was
on
my
replay.
morning before school growing up. Every morning, yeah.
And it was that, and then like hell, there were mornings I'd wake up and it was on because I had it on replay at night. Like my TV was always on ESPN when I was a kid, and I thought I took that and was like, I could work in media. I was watching First Take one day. This is back when Stephen A. and Skip were doing it. And, and like, you know, like I was watching. I was like, I could do this job. Like this doesn't seem hard. And so I started, you know, looking into that more and like trying to, you know, figure out how do you get into this field and stuff like that. And next thing I know, you know, I get, of course, I didn't have the grades. I got 30 credits from community college and I transferred to Eastern with like a 2.5 GPA. And thankfully, if you want to go into media, they don't give a shit about your grades unless you go to like Mizzou or, you know, or U of I, if, you know, like where I grew up, or, you know, just like a major school. I went to a very small school where honestly, a lot of people who go into media, like they don't get the biggest job. There's one guy that went there. I forget his name, but I do know he works for the Los Angeles Times now and covers the Clippers, I believe. So they've had some people in there, and like Aldo Soto, he's like a Cubs blogger for Sports Mockery. Like he went to Eastern. We went to school together. I didn't really talk to him that much when I was there, but we knew each other. Yeah, like I went to school and like, honestly, it was a lot of like growing and learning about myself. And then also like doing all these things to build my resume. And I mean, then after that, after I graduated in 15, you know, I took my first job as a reporter, and it was a great experience, but it was also the dumbest decision of my life because I took a job that was awful. I hated it. I was like a general assignment reporter. I was going to like county board meetings and stuff. And like, what I was told in school was that you just take whatever you can get to just keep building it, because the first job you get out of school isn't going to be the one that you want. And I mean, I took that to heart. I was like, first one that's offered to me, I'm taking it. And then, I mean, this was literally like a week after I graduated that I like accepted this job. And so I moved to this little town called Waseca, Illinois, just south of Kankakee. And I lived there for about 6 months before I found my next gig. When I moved over to Peoria, and I was covering high school sports. So I finally got like into the sports journalism. I was like assistant sports editor, and I, you know, covered all the local high school teams in Peoria and the outskirts of Peoria. And like, that was actually really fun. I really enjoyed it. But I just didn't make like jack shit. I made like $12 an hour. It was a lot of hours for a lot of nothing. I picked up a side job, you know, doing radio. I forget the name, Advanced Media Partners. It was in Peoria. They had an ESPN affiliate, which is one reason why I applied. And, you know, I helped them run their soundboard. They let me talk sometimes. So I was getting my first real professional radio experience there. Had a lot of fun there. I did that for like 4 or 5 months, but they didn't hire me full time. I didn't have benefits or anything. So between those two jobs, I got to a point where I got burnt out, honestly. And I was like, maybe this just isn't it. But if I can find something within the field of media or social media and marketing or something like that, I felt like I could be happy that way. And I got a job in Ottawa, Illinois back in 2018 at this like environmental services company. And they had, their marketing team was 3 people, became 4 when they hired me. And they hired me to strictly just run their social media accounts, because the company was ran by a bunch of old people who don't know how to use social media. Like, that's just straight up what it was. They didn't know how to do any of it. And they were like, here, fix this. I was like, okay, like, I barely know anything about what you guys do, but I'm going to do my best to try and at least help people see what you're trying to do and what you're trying to sell and all this. It had its ups and downs. I mean, I got burnt out on it eventually after 2 years because it just wasn't in sports. It wasn't an industry that I cared about, honestly. And, you know, during that time I met my girlfriend I live with now, and she's from the northwest suburbs, and me and her were going back and forth between like, is she going to move to where I lived, or was I going to, move up to where she lived? And, I was applying for all kinds of social media marketing jobs in the Chicagoland area for like a good year, didn't get anything. So she almost moved to where I was in Ottawa. And then I got this job at the Camping World national headquarters. It's like an RV company. Their national headquarters is in Lincolnshire. It's like a northwest suburb, I guess you could say. Yeah. Super rich there, by the way. And they hired me to be like a social care agent. That's what they called it. And I thought that there was going to be some it was social media, but it was mainly customer service.
Oh, okay.
And I was like replying to people's Facebook comments. And of course, on Facebook, anyone who's leaving a comment on their post is complaining about what's wrong with their RV or what's wrong with them or why they hate the owner of the company and or the CEO and all this stuff. And yeah, it was just like, honestly, it was just like I was like the first tail to like helping the people get to their next spot. So I would always like create these reports to send to I forget what you would call it, but I was just part of how they would get their customer service.
Sure. Yeah.
From social media. And I did that for about 7 months, and then the pandemic hit and they let me go because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was unemployed in 2020 from like March till December. Okay. And that's whenever I actually got back into sports media or journalism or whatever, because I was sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah.
And me and a buddy of mine from college, I really got out of like trying to do anything in sports media in like 2019, like from the back half of 2018 and most of 2019, because I was so burnt out on it. But towards the end of 2019, I was like, after really learning or really seeing all these different podcasts on Twitter and people trying to build their brands and like, just do their own thing, I was like, I should just do this. And if it doesn't work, whatever, at least I'm having fun with it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
And so me and a guy I live with in college, we started up a podcast called The Sky's Falling, and it was a Chicago sports podcast, and we call it that because all the teams sucked.
Yeah. Accurate.
It was mainly because we were both Cubs and Bears fans. I mean, that was mainly why we called it that. And we did that podcast for about a year and a half. During that process, especially after I got let go because of the pandemic, I joined this website called ontapsportsnet.com and became like a Cubs writer for them. And I was just at home like freaking out about not only like how am I going to pay rent, but also like the world, because I mean, you guys remember March of 2020.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was a wild time. And so I'm like, I was just trying to find something to do to like keep my mind off it.
Right.
And I don't know how it came upon my Twitter timeline, but I was just like, screw it, I'll apply. Like, again, in my mind, it was just like, this is just going to be something fun to do. And if it turns into something great. So I joined, and, I wrote a few articles here and there, especially during the pandemic. I did these, where are they now, about all these random Cubs players who were like long gone or whatever. And I helped do their Cubs podcast, Cubs on Tap. It's a great Cubs podcast, by the way. I don't know, I just remember going into 2021, I had been there long enough, and they were like, Cody, you're super talented, you need to do more, we want you to do more, just like take the Cubs account and do whatever you want with it. And so I was like, all right, fine. And, I think that's when I really started, I guess making a name for myself. It honestly really started whenever that Long Gone Summer documentary came out in like, I think it was June or July of 2020. I had a viral tweet go like just explode because I sent a tweet that listed all the players who wore 21 after Sammy Sosa, and was just like, this is disrespectful, and like it just got a lot of engagement. Next thing I know, I'm getting followers and like people agreeing with me and all this. Also, people disagreeing with me, which I
of course
don't understand, but whatever.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the start, and like it just kind of, it was a little bit of a roller coaster the rest of the year. And I think during that time, I really figured out how to build your name on social media and stuff. And like, I just had all these different shticks and bits and stuff that people liked or didn't like. I don't. Twitter is. You guys are on Twitter. You know what it is.
Weird.
It's a weird place, right? Yeah, and yeah, but. And then I did that in all of 2021, just like, just tweeting about the Cubs. It became a very like, okay, people are here. People follow me because I tweet about the Cubs, or they're just as miserable as me as a Bears fan. Like that I feel like the people who follow me on Twitter are those two things. So during all that time, that podcast I started with one of my buddies, we had Kevin Kaduck on. He was like our second guest, and he's the head of content of CHGO now. Okay. And at the time, that's when he launched Midway Minute. And so this is in like January 2020. And at the time when I had him on the podcast, I was, I saw him launch this newsletter, saw he used to work for Yahoo Sports. All on Twitter, I didn't know who he was, but I was like, in my mind, I was like, oh, this would be cool. Like, this will probably, like, if we get him on, like, he would promote the show for us, hopefully, and then that might get us more listeners. And also, like, it sounds like what he's doing is pretty cool, and like I'm always interested to hear about people's stories. I hope I'm not boring people with my long ass story.
No. We are locked in right now.
So that's like, at that time I didn't think anything of it. After it happened, like, me and Kevin maintained a friendly relationship. He would DM me sometimes. I had him on the show again eventually, and he was always the coolest dude to me. And next thing I know, in February this year, Kevin's sending me a DM. I'm working my next job I got after. I worked at my fraternity, I worked at my college fraternity's national headquarters in Evanston from December of 2020 until February of this year. I was in their communications department, doing like social media and everything. It was actually like, it was at the time when I got the job, I was like, this is like the perfect job for me now. Like, I get to like kind of bring back some of those college juices and like get to know like people that were in my fraternity from all over the world or the country, and all this kind of stuff. And was like, it was a great job, and I got to do social media and stuff. Like, I was actually very content with it. And I honestly, I did not think I would leave it for at least a few years at least. And I was working from home one day. It was a Friday afternoon, like 3 p.m. And I get a DM from Kevin, and he's like, hey, I got this pretty cool opportunity. If you want to hear about it, if I can give you a call. I was sitting here procrastinating, not doing my real job. And so I was like, yeah, like, feel free. And I gave him my number. And next thing, I'm on the phone with him and Jake Flanagan, who's like the general manager of CHGO, and they're telling me all about CHGO and like what they want CHGO to be. And like, they told me about DMVR, which is like one of our sister locations in Denver, and PHNX, which is in Phoenix, and what they're doing and how they're growing, and what like the main point of like of their business. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like, I was sitting there like waiting for him to tell me that this was all a joke. Like, I did not want to believe him. I did not want to believe him. And eventually, I believed him, and was just like, I was at home alone that day. I was like, all right, I got to talk to my mom, and I got to talk to my girlfriend about this. And then I'll let you know. I knew I was going to take this job. I was like, I got to talk to them first before I actually take it.
Right.
And yeah, it was just like that day that they like told me about this is like life changing. Like, I get to talk about the Cubs now, and like on a pretty large platform. We just surpassed 16,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's not all because of me. That's for damn sure. Like, I get to go to work. Like, I get to go to work and like see guys that I've watched from afar for like the last 5 years. Like, I knew Herb Lawrence was at the Score, and I knew that Adam Hogue was a pretty big name at WGN and at NBC Sports Chicago, and had whatever he does with the Athletic as well, and there were a few guys that I like personally knew, like Matt Peck and Big Dave Watson, who do the Bull Show. Like I knew them personally, but other than that, I didn't know anyone else personally, and like so I went into this like, okay, I gotta like try and rise up to this talent here, and it's been a lot of fun, man. Like that, instead of telling you how I got into sports journalism, I just gave you like the last 12 years of my life. But
no, I love it. I love it. I mean, because
it is a journey. Yeah,
we were gonna say too. I mean, CHGO is expanding so fast. I know they just added the Red Stars podcast and the Red Stars section of the show of the website, and then also the Fire. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, we were going to mention too about, being on Cubs on Tap, and you've kind of had interviews with, David Kaplan and Chuck Garfien and Danny Perkins, and, you work with Luke Stuckmeyer, who I remember growing up in high school watching him when it was still CSN Chicago, and I think like Gail Fisher was on there still,
Can I tell you a funny story about Luke?
Of course.
Okay. So before CHGO launched, we like Brandon Spano, who's like the CEO of the All City Network, which is like the network all of our locations are on. Him and a few other guys from DMVR, they were in this Airbnb in Chicago. They asked us to come like do a meeting with them to talk about the Cubs show, about CHGO Cubs. And at the time when I was going into it, I didn't know who was going to be joining me. I had no idea who. I didn't know it was going to be Ryan Herrera, and I didn't know it was going to be Luke Stuckmeyer. All right, so I get to this Airbnb. And I walk up the stairs, and it's like all these guys who I don't know. They're all from Denver and Brandon Spano. And I remember Jake saying to me, "Oh, Luke's coming. He had to go get something or whatever." And I didn't put two and two in my head that it was Luke Stuckmeyer, because Luke Stuckmeyer had been gone from NBC Sports Chicago.
Yeah, for a while.
For a while. It'd been a few years. I think 2019 is when he told me they let him go. And so I was like, Luke, like, I didn't know. And then Ryan, like, he's fresh out of Mizzou. Like, I realized that I did not know who that was. And I did like find him on Twitter after I heard the name. I somehow through the vine heard that Ryan Herrera was going to be part of the Cubs team, and I didn't know who that was. I found him on Twitter. Next thing I know, he worked for MLB.com part-time, and like it was his first. He was just getting his feet wet out of Mizzou. And so he was like new, like me in a way, to the industry. But anyway, we're in this meeting talking about what they want for the Cubs show. Well, the entire time that Luke is up there, like I'm sitting next to Luke, he's wearing a mask, and because his family has his wife has like health problems.
Sure,
stuff. And like even though like they took all the all those mandates down and everything, like he was still being safe, and that's fine. No issue with that. Yeah. But it was just weird because like I had no idea who I was sitting next to the entire time. We had this meeting for like 2 hours. We're sitting there talking about this stuff, and I'm like, who is this guy? Who, like, in my head, and I can't just ask it with all those guys sitting there.
Right.
So I'm like, who is this guy? And after the meeting's done, Jake offers to take me and Luke to see The Office, and we hadn't seen The Office yet, and it was nowhere. It looked nothing like what it looks like now. It was like they had just got it, but they offered to take us to see the space, and I was like, yeah, I'll go. And I think we were waiting for Jake. He was in the bathroom or something, and me and Luke had started walking down these stairs to go to the car, and I was just honest. I was like, Luke, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I don't know who you are. and he was like, oh, do you know who like Kelly Kroll and David Kaplan are? And like, that's when I was like, oh shit. I didn't say it. But to try to protect myself, I was like, oh, did you do Beer Money? And he's like, yeah. And then like, that's my way of like how I hit it a little bit. But
that's awesome.
It was that's how I realized that I was working with Luke Stuckmeyer, in which then I was like freaking out in my head for like another 10 minutes because like I'm gonna work with this guy.
Yeah.
This legend. Guy, yes, an absolute legend. And we talk about legends in media in Chicago, and like Luke is like the most humble and like genuine dude. Like I absolutely love working with him, and I feel like we bring a good mix because like he's like 20 years older than me, and like he has the bit about being old that we always just like we always give him crap about being old, and like like me and Ryan are younger and everything, but like he's just so like just a genuine dude, and like he's honestly like. For someone who has worked in this, like in the industry for this long, like I've heard that some people get like that kind of, head on their shoulders of, just kind of being an asshole. Luke is not that. He's a great dude. And I love working with him.
That's awesome. Well, okay, so here's a follow-up question to that, kind of with working with Luke and Ryan and obviously Brendan doing some of the shows and Corey
and Corey Friedman. Yep.
Yeah. So like, okay, so we started our show a couple months after the pandemic started because the three of us are brother-in-laws. We kind of got tired of not being able to see each other because I live on the south suburbs, Greg's on the northern suburbs, and Vinny's in Madison. So we started off doing a baseball podcast, and we're like, oh man, the Cubs are awful. This was right before they started trading people. The White Sox, the window's open, but is it really that open? According to Greg, it's already shut. So we kind of said, okay, well, the first half will be baseball. The second half we'll do like top 5 lists, or we'll do pop culture or video games or movies or whatever. So for you guys who are, you're dealing with the Cubs on a day in, day out basis, like how do you keep it fun when you have a game like where they lost to the Orioles of all teams the other day? Like what's the like secret sauce to keeping it like engaging and fun? Is it just the rapport you guys have? Obviously after the Luke story, you guys definitely have a good rapport, but like, what do you do to keep that going?
Well, I'm thinking back to our post-game show the other night now, and I will just say that I think what helps is the comment section.
Sure.
They help us keep talking, that's for sure, and it's appreciated. We've kind of come up with some things to have fun. Like since Greg's a White Sox fan, when the Cubs and Sox were playing, what was it, like a week and a half or two ago, Yasmani Grandal got thrown out at home. And I remember we created a poll.
Yep.
We were like, who would win a race? And it was like Yachty, Pujols, Yasmani Grandal, or retired Miggy Montero. And like of course on the Cubs account, everyone's like voting for Montero because it's a Cubs account. And like we just do some fun shit like that and then we'll talk about it on the show or bring it up or like make some joke about it. And like it's things like that in a season like this. And I know that doesn't have anything to do with the Orioles game the other night.
No, I understand though.
But like it's stuff like that. I do find us we don't try to do it, but I do find us kind of getting we can be repetitive sometimes in terms of like just previous shows, like, oh, Jason Hayward's in the lineup again. What are we gonna bitch about it? What are we gonna say different tonight? And like we don't end up saying anything different. It's just we're just saying what everyone else is thinking and what we're thinking. So yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to following or covering a team like this Cubs team right now, it's like it can be tough, but there can be. Thankfully, we've had some fun things to talk about. I mean, Chris Morel has just been insane. Caleb Killian made his debut the other day, so that was a fun conversation on Monday. And then I in terms of other repetitive things, I mean, obviously we've been talking about do we extend Wilson or not, and it's
we'll get to that.
Yeah, so it's just kind of I don't know. I think you just got to find those things, and a lot of it happens from all of us three just sitting there on the couch watching the game. We would just like cracking jokes about whatever. I mean, shit, me and Luke have started this whole shtick of every time the Cubs get blown out, we just go to the ice cream shop that's like a 3-minute walk away, and then we like post a photo of it on the Twitter account and just be like, hey, it's a good time for ice cream, guys, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that's, and then we talked about it on the show a couple times too. So, It's tough, but one thing that I think that CHGO in general is just different from like the major networks that you see on TV is just like we're very much unbuttoned, man. Like I wear a backwards hat every day. Luke's wearing a hat every day. Someone I watch him on TV wearing a suit.
Never saw him
day.
wear a hat.
Yeah, the first time I saw him wearing a hat and like jeans, I was like, "Holy shit, what is going on with my life right now?" Like,
I just assumed he didn't even own any. To be honest,
right. But no, yeah, he actually owns regular clothes. So I think that's my favorite part about it is just we're very not buttoned up and we're very, you know, our opinions and takes about things are very genuine and like, you know, we truly want to make the fan experience for whatever team you like better than all these other networks out there that are buttoned up or, you know, have an agenda. You know, like Lucas told me stories about, you know, when he was at NBC, you know, with their partnership with the Cubs and stuff, that didn't allow them to just kind of say whatever they wanted. They purposely have to find reasons to talk positively about them. You know, we don't have that at CHGO, right? We just say whatever we want. I've said some things that Lucas told me is like, if you were, I've never heard anyone say anything like what you said. And in a way, I take it as a compliment, but also it is a thing where it's like, we are very open. Do I know that like there are people listening and like, I do in a way think that, in some aspects, I do kind of watch what I say about certain players and stuff. But at the end of the day, like if someone sucked that night, I'm going to say that they sucked that night. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Hey, Cody, really quick, I got it. Since you mentioned slow Chicago baseball players, I got to chime in with one. And this kind of goes back a little bit. I'm going to go back to 06 here. But the slowest Cub I had ever seen was John Mabry. And he was on the Cubs for 1 year. I think it was just 06. They were playing the Rockies. I remember Wade Miller started that game. If you guys remember Wade Miller. Garrett Adkins was playing third base for the Colorado Rockies. He botched a grounder. And it was there was a runner first and second. Mabry was on second. And he, you know, the third base coach sent him. And we were along the third base line right there. And we were pretty close. We had good seats. Yeah. And this guy was huffing and puffing and running in the same goddamn spot all the way home. There was a shitty throw from Matt Holliday. He was playing left field. I forget who the catcher was, or like Torrey Alba or something. But it was a shitty throw. He ended up scoring, but it took a very long time. So when you said that, John Mabry, one-time Cub, definitely ring the bell. So.
Cardinals legend. I feel like he spent his entire career with the Cardinals, and then for one random year played with the Cubs, and then retired. I'm pretty sure that's what he did.
He's like, oh God, I'm not doing this again.
He's like, he was like, I'm tired of this home clubhouse. This is nothing like what stadium looked like. Shit. Oh man. Yeah. Cody, no, it's been fun though.
Cody, you'd mentioned Chris Morel's hot start. Has that been the most fun thing for you this season so far for the Cubs? Is watching him?
I want to say that, but Keegan Thompson's honestly been my favorite thing about the Cubs season. And I only say that because for so long, man, like, you know, I'm the biggest Theo defender, but everyone always said this guy couldn't develop pitching or he couldn't find pitching. And, you know, I don't know if Keegan Thompson's going to be in the rotation next year. I don't know. I don't know that I still think we got to see the rest of the year and see where he stands. I know he just had his last start was his worst appearance of the season. I'm looking forward to the bounce back, hopefully. But to me, like watching, like if there's anything that I've really enjoyed watching the Cubs this year, it's that the pitching that's come up and really excelled. And he's been the main one so far. And I know a lot of that has to do with the new pitching infrastructure and the pitch lab, as we call it, and all of that. And it's just very nice to see because, man, I don't know about you guys, but I think almost at least once or twice a week, I'm like, man, if we had this bullpen in 2018, this team would have gone to the NLCS.
Oh,
at least.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to me. So, at this point, I've really enjoyed watching Keegan Thompson pitch in whatever role they have him. I really do like this trend of pitching weapons, is I think Jed has called it, or Ross has called it, and it's very Rays like. And I don't want the Cubs to spin like the Rays, but I don't mind them operating like the Rays in terms of how they develop their talent. So,
Yep.
Keegan Thompson's been my favorite part about this season. He just came in whatever role they've asked him to, and he just shoved it down people's throats. It's been fun to watch.
Yep. Yeah, that's been the biggest surprise for me because last year he struggled. He started off hot, and then they moved him to the starting rotation, and it was like, ooh, I don't know if this guy's going to be a starter. And then they put him back in the bullpen, and then it's like, okay, he's been doing great there. Maybe they should just leave him because of last year, but since he's been taking on the start, well, he's also pitched a lot more too out of the bullpen this year. But yeah, he for me has been, I think, the biggest surprise out of all the young players so far. But yeah.
Here's a question: Do you guys think he deserves to be in the All-Star talk? Because me and Luke have discussed this.
Part of me wants to say yes, just because he's been such a relief to, I feel like, Cubs fans in general. I mean, whether he was in the bullpen, and if you take out that last start, then hell yes, because he's just been lights out. And I mean, for me, looking for things to get excited about going forward, he is definitely one that has kept me going and kept me turning on Marquee to watch games, even though it's like, oh boy, this is not going to be a good day. But yeah, no, I mean, I would throw him on there for sure if they're looking for guys for the Cubs. I mean, because really,
Contreras is going to be
Contreras. I think is a lock. And if you would have told me in April, I would have said, "Oh, Say is going to be there for sure." And then and obviously he's still dealing with that injury now and coming back shortly. But yeah, I feel like it would be. I mean, not that it's a good. I mean, not that it being a good story is the only reason, but I'd be all for it at this point.
Yeah.
So
I know he hasn't been a starter for the entire season, and he's been in the bullpen, and like you just look at the numbers, in my opinion, before the last start was that he had an ERA of 1.99. Like, I mean, that's really good. And he, like, do I care if the Cubs get 2 All-Stars or more? No, I don't at the end of the day. But, like, I just think if you're pitching well and you're on a bad team like the Cubs, like, and you're still putting up these numbers, I think that means something. So, yeah, he's obviously not going to be a starter or anything like that in the All-Star game, but like I wouldn't be surprised if he got in the All-Star game this year. I think a lot of people would, but like Cubs fans, I don't think would be surprised. So
right,
it is something that I'm like, I think he should at least be in the conversation for sure.
Oh yeah. I could definitely see that being the
case.
case.
It would be surprising because he's really not a name yet around the league,
right.
But it'd be nice to get on the radar a little bit. Kind of an underrated guys. You like to see that with some of the All-Stars. So
right. Well, never forget Jake Arrieta in 2015 was an All-Star snub.
That's true.
He won Cy Young that year.
Yeah, that's right.
I think he might have used a little bit of that anger going forward, at least for 2015 and 2016. Could have used it again last season.
I'm not saying Keegan Thompson's Jake Arrieta, but I just think that what I'm saying is like, Keegan Thompson probably having a better first half than Arrieta did in 15 if we're talking about him being an All-Star. Though I do think Cubs fans thought in 15 that Arrieta had was in the conversation as well. He had pitched pretty well for them in that entire year, in my opinion. People point out the second half, but I thought really the entire year he was really, really, really good.
Oh, that 2015 playoff game against the Pirates was just he was filthy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there's nothing better than seeing was it Sean Rodriguez beating the hell out of the Gatorade machine afterwards.
Yeah. It was nice to see someone else beat up a Gatorade cooler and not a Cubs player, right?
Yeah. That feels like a lifetime ago at this point. But
it does. A lot of those guys are long gone.
Gone, retired on other teams, hurt, missing in action.
Keegan Thompson also wears a terrible baseball jersey number, which are slowly becoming popular. 71. Getting a lot of numbers in the 70s, 80s, and 90s now.
That's a hockey number.
It's a hockey number, yeah.
Doesn't Luis Robert rock like 91 or something like that?
88.
88, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Got a lot of 70s and 80s on the Dylan Cease wears 84.
Okay.
We don't need to talk about Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up, Greg.
Yeah.
One question I have for you, Cody, is with Wilson Contreras getting the avoided arbitration today with the Cubs, and I know you guys have talked about this on your shows as well, but ultimately, what do you want to see them do with him? I'm in the camp that I would love to keep him around. I think he's kind of fallen into that leadership role that is kind of was a vacuum after all these other guys left.
Yeah.
But if I I don't know. I feel like if they were going to get something done, it would have been done already. So, I mean, if they ship him out, what do you want to see for a return? Do you want him to stay? Yeah. What are you looking for in terms of an extension? All the above there.
Well, Justin, I get fans who are like, we got to trade Wilson and get whatever we can back. Like, I totally get it. But in my opinion, I think the farm is very good right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that, if you trade Contreras, you'll just make it even better. So if you were to trade Contreras, the only way that I would get up for it or be happy about the return at this point is if they got guys who are ready to play next year. Mm-hmm. If they do another trade that's similar to like the Yu Darvish trade the Rizzo trade, like Kevin Alcantara and Alexander Vizcaino are in freaking Myrtle Beach right now. Yeah. And PCA is in South Bend.
Yep.
And so Killian is the only one who's made it up from the trades last year. Alexander Canario's in Double-A right now. He could, he could be a September call-up or something. I don't know. I don't really know what they expect from him. But to me, I think the Cubs need to extend Contreras, because if they are serious about filling out a competitive team that can win a division in 2023, which they should be, because they're the fucking Chicago Cubs, and
said.
And they make their franchises worth billions of dollars. And you're
biblical losses.
And you're gonna charge the most expensive game day experience in baseball. Like, you got, like, the fans aren't going to put up with this another year. Like, they're lucky that they're getting people to come out there now, considering what's happened in the ending of 2019, what happened in 2020 at the end. And even if you want to count the season, like, it was so tough to watch in 2020 in general. Oh, yeah. Like, I honestly don't even count the division championship. And as a Cubs fan, I should be counting every division championship, but I don't count it because, like, it was just awful and it was not fun. And then last year, I mean, the 11-game losing streak and then how it all blew up, and they traded everyone, and the end of the year sucked, and it was, all that. Like, fans, you'll probably still get the diehards to come out. Like, I'll stupidly still go out to Wrigley since I live 2 miles away, and, like, I'll go on StubHub and pay $6 for a ticket in the bleachers. Fine.
Yeah.
But, like, you're not going to get, like, the casuals to come out there. Like, like, I've been there enough this year. It's significantly more empty than it has been in recent years. And, like, it pains me to say that, because I've always said that no matter what, Cubs fans will show up. And I think that before 2016, that was the case. But once you win the World Series, you put expectations out there, right?
Yeah.
And Jed and Theo and Tom Ricketts, all of them have these quotes out there saying, like, hey, like, we want to be in it every year. We want to be a contender every year. And, like, the way that it looks right now, it doesn't look like they are wanting to be competitive every year. And I get that they needed to, like, fix the farm. The farm was a bottom dweller in the league. So I understood the Yu Darvish trade. I remember when the Yu Darvish trade happened, fans were angry on social media and all of that. And in a way I was too, but at the time I was like, all right, I will save my anger for what you do after this to replace him. And what did they do? They go and sign old ass Jake Arrieta, and I'm just going to forget that he pitched for the Cubs in 2021.
Yeah. We had the less said, the better.
But if they had gone and signed someone like Taijuan Walker, who was a free agent that year and went to the Mets and was actually pretty good for them last year. And he's, the Mets are really good this year. I don't know what his numbers are, but I'm assuming he's having a solid year. Someone like, if they just would have gone and got someone that was, less cheaper and less years, then, like, I would be like, oh, that makes sense. You know what I mean? But they didn't do that. And now you sign Stroman and Suzuki this offseason. I know you don't know what you're going to get out of Suzuki going into the season. Had a hot April, then the league adjusted, so he wasn't good in May and got this injury now. So now it's like I've read so many tweets of fans who are out on this guy, already comparing him to Fukudome, which is just mind blowing to me.
That's rough. Yeah.
And the internet, man, it's something
Toxic.
Like it's
Cubs
toxic.
Twitter is it can be the best of places and quite
Yeah.
possibly the worst of places all
Right.
at once.
At the end of the day, like you got to at least give the guy till the All-Star break to really make a decision, in my opinion, in terms of is this guy good or bad. But whatever. But the point is that you give this money to those two guys. I know they're team friendly deals, but like, to do that and then not do anything else, but you have the farm system coming up. I just don't like, because they haven't been transparent. I don't know what the Cubs want to do. So I'm going off that, okay, they signed Stroman, they signed Suzuki, Ian Happ's here for one more year. Like, why are we not extending Contreras at this point? Because you look at this roster and like, he's the only one who points out as like a leader, like a real true leader that could be part of your next core of great players who could, take this team to the playoffs. And like, I know like the lockout was a thing. And then when the lockout ended, the Cubs had to go out and find some dudes to fill their roster. And then spring training came, and like, they just didn't really have time. I'm happy to see that they didn't go to arbitration with Contreras. Like, that's a step in the right direction. To me, like, obviously we're going to see at the end of July, right? Like, if they trade him or not. In my opinion, I don't want them to trade him, because I just want them to keep him, because first off, you're not going to find a catcher like him. Like, Yan Gomes is a nice backup. If you have him and Contreras next year, like, at least you're going into next year knowing you got a really solid catching core.
Yep.
Yeah.
To go with that really like that up and coming pitching staff. And next year we can just go ahead and assume that we're going to have Caleb Killian in there, Justin Steele probably, and Keegan Thompson probably, and then Stroman if they don't trade him. Which, again, if they were to trade Stroman, then I guess we're trading Contreras too.
Yeah,
like,
everybody's going then.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and then we can really sit on here and yell about Tom Ricketts. But like, they will need to make some major moves for pitching and on position players as well going in the offseason. But the number one priority in my eyes would be to keep Contreras, 4 or 5 year deal. He wants the JT Realmuto money. Dude, like, people were like, oh, this is his best offensive year of his career. Well, and they're like, oh, it's a contract year. Well, when you finally get a backup catcher and you get the DH, that kind of helps. Yeah, it kind of helps when you don't have to lead the league in innings caught every year like he was. So to me, like, I mean, I don't know what Jed is thinking if they don't keep Contreras. If they don't keep Contreras, then we're not going to freaking contend until 2025 like a lot of people think. I just don't want to see that, and we don't deserve to see that. We should be holding the Cubs front office and ownership accountable if they trade Contreras and then don't do anything to try and fix that. You know what I mean? Like, it will be tough if they do trade him at the deadline. Then I have to sit through the rest of the year and try to convince myself that they're going to either try and get a contract done with him in the offseason, or they're going to go and get enough guys that are going to replace his offense. Like,
right.
And like, that's just like, I honestly don't want to do that again, because I went into last offseason thinking, well, maybe they'll bring Rizzo back, or maybe they'll bring Brian or Baez back. And then they brought none of them. And they actually talked to Kyle Schwarber, but they didn't bring him. And I see the contract he got from the Phillies. I'm like, why didn't you bring Kyle Schwarber?
That would have been very doable.
Right. And I know Schwarber's having a tough year so far, but shit, man, at least they would have brought the power, and you would have got the fans. You would have got fan support if Kyle Schwarber was back with the Cubs. So, yeah, man, I know that's a long answer, but to me, Contreras should be a Cub. He should be like, I hate Yachty, but he should be getting the Yachty treatment from the Wrigley faithful for the rest of his career as a Chicago Cub. Should retire Cub, and that's just my 2 cents. And again, I understand why there's some people who don't want that. But again, if they were to trade him, they better be getting guys who can contribute to this roster next year.
I think you nailed it with the transparency. That's all I think a lot of fans want, is just tell us what you're doing and be honest with them. I mean, I've said it before to these two that, like, the current organizational management kind of makes me almost wish I miss the Tribune. And I never thought I would ever say I miss the Tribune ownership and all the Sam Zell bullshit that happened and all that. But yeah, just be honest. I mean, you're making money hand over fist. Granted, like you said, it's almost kind of refreshing to hear that attendance is down because those diehards recognize that they're not being sold a bill of goods, but it's like something's not right. You know what I mean? So.
I was at Wrigley. I took my brother to left field bleachers for the first time in his life last Saturday, and like against the Cardinals. And I won't lie to you, when I hear the Yachty chants and it's like loud and you can hear it, that's saying something, man.
Yeah.
That's saying something. Not only is that just disgusting and it makes me want to punch something or punch a wall or whatever, but it's also just like a sign that like, hey, there's more Cardinal fans here than Cubs fans. And like that's never been a thing at Wrigley. Never.
Yeah. No.
So that should be a sign to the front office that, hey, we need to be competing in 2023, man. Like the first rebuild, people were just like, they brought in Theo, and Theo was transparent and said, hey, we're going to suck for a while. Right. Yep. And people were just like, all right, well, at least you're being honest with us. And also, it was Theo. Yeah, it was Theo. And also, like, we had never experienced consistent winning, right? Mm-hmm. And so fans were just like, fine, let's watch it play out.
We can take it.
Yeah, we can take it. Like, what's another few years, right? Like, so
at least you're honest this time.
Yeah. So now, after you win the World Series and you've missed the playoffs, now you missed the playoffs last year, and if you want to count 2020 again, I don't count 2020. You technically, in my eyes, the Cubs have missed the playoffs the last 3 seasons, and they haven't done anything to. Well, when they had the core, they didn't do anything really to restore the roster or help their roster offensively, at least. So for 3 years, people have been crying about the Cubs not spending money to retool their roster. And now that we have hit this quote unquote rebuild or whatever you want to call it, if they don't do anything this offseason again, like it's just bad business. Like at the end of the day, it's just bad business. Unless you're going to decrease those ticket prices, man. Like I feel so bad for season ticket holders, man. Like I know, I know a handful of them, and a few of them reached out to me last week and asked me like if I, wanted to buy some of them for the Cubs Cardinal series, and they told me, the prices that were at face value.
Yeah,
these tickets were like $80 a ticket for this Cubs team. You go on StubHub and get tickets for like $40. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like those are the people I feel bad for the most. Like, don't feel bad for me. Like I can go on StubHub and buy a ticket to a game for like I've paid like $10 for a ticket at one point in this year. Mm-hmm. Like it hasn't been financially hurting me. If there's anything that's hurting me is spending $12 for a goddamn beer.
Well, yeah, that's oh boy.
But like as far as going to games, no, it hasn't been a problem to me. But that's because the season ticket holders are trying to sell their tickets because they don't want to go, and also they can't go to all of them anyway. But like the Ricketts taking so much money away from the season ticket holders, and these are diehards, man. Yeah. Like the ones who kept them. And I also know, there were a lot of people I knew who were like getting that call like from the Cubs during the offseason, like, hey, you're up for Cubs
next,
tickets. And like they'd been on the list for a really long time. And like, I wonder why now, because so many people were dropping them because they don't want to spend that money. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't blame them, not for those prices. Like, again, if you will, I think you would get a better result from the fan base. Or a better reaction for the fan base if you at least made your tickets cheaper. If you told us, if you're going to tell us that the team isn't going to be very good, it's just they're just straight up stealing money. Also, Paul Sullivan the other day from the Tribune tweeted out like this check from, I guess a Cardinals fan or had stayed at the Hotel Zachary across the street from Wrigley Field. Stay there for 2 nights. It was like $1,500 or some shit. Yeah, because it was like $600 a night, dude.
Wow.
Like the Ricketts are getting plenty of money from people. Yeah. Plenty of money. Like they don't. Biblical losses my ass, bro. Like, this is some bullshit. So, like, you know, I know the owners of sports franchises in the city of Chicago is a very long topic, and like none of them are good. And again, I know Tom Ricketts at the end of the day has been a good owner for the Cubs. He's really, you know, changed, you know, he revamped Wrigley Field in a way that you still get that charm and like and all that, but it also is more modernized, thankfully. And I do like enjoy all the things outside Wrigley as well, even though I'm never gonna go stay at that hotel. No. But like if you're gonna do all of that and then not put out a good team, none of that matters.
No,
the fans want a good team. At the end of the day, that's what the fans want. So that's what they need to do. Again, back to Contreras. You keep Contreras. That will at least keep some faith in your fan base. And like, it just doesn't seem like a bad idea at this point. He's 30 years old. I know he's a catcher, but again, there's a DH now, and he's having a great season offensively. There's like, you're at least going to get a few more years of quality play from him. Right. At that position and offensively. So, you know, again, they just need to figure it out.
It also doesn't help that they don't have anybody in the pipeline, in the pipeline for catcher at that position.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had somebody, Amaya was ready to take over, okay, that would make sense. But he hasn't played, since 2019, I feel like? He's been injured the past 2 seasons. So that's
the thing, too. Yeah. And, like, that's why – there was rumors about the Contreras and the Padres before the season, and Luis Campusano is like one of the top catching prospects in baseball right now. I was like, all right, if they trade Contreras now,
you better get him back.
Yeah, you better be getting him. And we'll even take Eric Hosmer off your hands just just because. That way we can get that prospect in return as well. You know what I mean? Like, I was all like, if there was any trade that the Cubs were going to make that involved Contreras, or just anything to get Eric Hosmer from them, just to get one of their top prospects in return too, because they were actively trying to move him because they didn't want to pay him because he had not been good. I know he's actually having a good year this year, but like the last few seasons he had been really bad, and they didn't pull the trigger on it, and that's unfortunate. Not because they didn't do it with Contreras, but just in general, because they could have really got some good prospects there. But again, like if they were to trade Contreras, someone like Luis Campusano would make sense, and it would be something that I would at least be like, all right, well, at least we got someone who's projected to be good and probably could slide in right away and play. So
it would soften the blow at least a little bit.
I still probably wouldn't be happy about it because I mean Wilson is like the heart and soul of the team, and like I've always been a fan of his. Like I know, and one reason I've always been a fan of his is because like fans of other teams hate him because he's very passionate. He's very like he wears his emotions on his sleeve. Like, and some fans just don't like that, especially whenever he starts yelling at you because you hit him or whatever. So like, I get why fans don't like him, but again, like that's why fans like him for the Cubs. Like Cubs fans like him because they know that opposing fans don't like him. So, that is what it is. And I just, at the end of the day, I just hope the Cubs figure out a way to put a team that can actually compete next year. And a lot of I feel like casual fans don't see how they can do that, but they're really not that far when you look at the pitching that has come up, and if you look at guys like Chris Morel, and then we still have Ian Happ for one more year unless they trade him. I don't know. In my opinion, Patrick Wisdom has been a solid major league player. A lot of people don't think so. I think he has. Frank Schwindel, same. I know the OPS is kind of low, but like he's been pretty good since he sat in the middle of that freaking in the middle seat of the airplane after getting demoted and going out to San Diego and coming back. He's been pretty good. Yeah. If those two play like solid major leaguers like they have this past month, the rest of the year, then you can go into next season and be like, all right, these guys can continue to be bridge pieces until we got a third baseman we want to put there or a first baseman. Or you can always just put Schwindel in the DH and go find a different first baseman. If you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they're going to do with Rivas, but like I do look at the roster. I'm like, first off, I think their record is better than what or they're better than what their record shows.
Yes.
They should not be 10 games below 500. They should be at worst 5 games below 500, but that 3-14 stretch against all those really good teams was bad. They've played 500 ball since then. So you look at the roster and you're just like, this team should be better. This team should be in the wild card race. And that it's frustrating that they're not, and they're not going to be, and they're probably going to sell, and it sucks. But after you look at all these other guys who they can move, you look at the young guys coming up for next year, you look at how much payroll flexibility they have going in the offseason, you're like, this team can be competitive and be like an actual division, NL Central division like contender next year if you really dive into like all of the players that they have that are going to be here. So
Sure, for sure.
Speaking of one of these players, I gotta ask because I can't help myself. What is the current mood on? Well, he's not really my guy, never was my guy, but my guy, Nick Madrigal.
Oh man,
do you
Nicky
see
Bats.
do you see a future for him in a Cub uniform? And what was the trade reaction like at the time when that all went down? Just out of curiosity here.
Well, you know, when that trade went down, I was just getting over the fact that they traded Bryant for, you know, or no, he happened right before Bryant. I was just going through. I was going through all the emotions.
Same week, same couple days. So
same couple days. I was pretty numb at the time, honestly.
Yeah.
But when I read that they got Madrigal and Cody Hoyer back for Kimbrel, can I say I was a little underwhelmed, or was I a little disappointed in a way, because maybe I had talked myself into thinking that you could get better, I guess. And I'm not even saying that those guys, like in that moment, I'm not even saying that I thought those guys were bad, but I didn't really know a lot about Cody Hoyer. I did like Nick Madrigal at the time. I was like, okay, Madrigal seems nice, but like you'd think for Kimbrel, you get a little bit more. And I was thinking, you know, I just maybe one more to go with Hoyer, and I don't even know if that would have meant like a lower tier prospect or whatever. But you know, I know a lot of people reacted negatively to it. I guess in my opinion, I was like, well, Madrigal's been a 300 career hitter his entire career at every level. The Cubs it would have been nice if the Cubs had someone like Nick Madrigal at the beginning of 2021 and all of 2020 and the year before that. Like, he was quite literally the type of player the Cubs needed for like years.
Their type of ball, right?
Yeah. And, you know, they couldn't ever find someone like that. But I guess now how I feel about Nick Madrigal is, I guess I'm disappointed, but I'm also like holding out. You know, my hope is that, you know, the season-ending injury, didn't play for, you know, a long time, right? He got hurt in what, like May or June of last year, right? So then he had to rehab, and now he's barely got 100 plate appearances this year. He got hurt again because of his back.
Yep.
I am at the point where I'm just going to let it play out, and we'll see what his numbers are at the end of the year. Because it's not like the Cubs have anyone better to play second base. I mean, they could play Chris Morel at second base. And if the Cubs believe, hey, we want to play him and Nico Horner up the middle for the next, you know, however many years, fine. Or either could play Morel at third, whatever, move Wisdom to first. I don't know, whatever. With Morel being so good and versatile, you can play him anywhere. But to me, it's just like, I think Madrigal just has to get the at-bats, and hopefully you start to see him take balls out to the outfield more, because we've seen a lot of ground balls. I mean, it's been the right-handed version of Jason Hayward from Nick Madrigal for us.
Boy.
Yeah. So like, you know, it's I can't sugarcoat it, man. Like he has not been good. It's been bad. It doesn't look good for yet another Cubs Sox trade, though. And another thing that makes it hurt worse is that Cody Hoyer now he's had Tommy John surgery, and we're not going to see him until June at the earliest of next year. Probably be more like July, August of next year, right? And, you know, I know Tommy John is very normalized now, and like plenty of guys come back from it, but you can't expect him to come back and just come out there and throw darts at 90 5+ per hour, and help the Cubs go if they're in the playoff chase. Like I'm not going to expect him to come back and just come out and shove. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so to me, it's like, man, now I'm gonna probably have to really wait until 2024 to decide if the Kimbrel trade was a win or just a wash, because I do think the Sox still lost that trade because Kimbrel was terrible, and you traded him, and you got AJ Pollock, who's also not having a good year. So it's like I feel like you haven't got anything out of that trade. But you're also not missing Hoyer or Madrigal. So it's
true.
I feel like in 2024,
I don't know about that actually.
I mean,
and that's really sad to say. Well,
that is sad to say.
I had to bring it up because like you just mentioned, we traded Kimbrel for Pollock. The Dodgers were just in town, so of course the Madrigal talk has to resurrect itself. Not to mention that the second baseman on our team just suck between Leo Garcia, Josh Harrison. I mean, Danny Mendick's like the best second baseman we have on the team, and he's just here because, dudes
Tim
are hurt.
Anderson. Yeah.
So, so of course you see, you say Cubs Twitter is bad, Justin. Sox Twitter can be really bad too when you see the Madrigal fans out there, revisiting the trade. That's still a trade. The trade didn't work out for us. Unfortunately, it's still a trade. I don't blame Rick Hahn for making that trade because it was a trade that needed to be made to bolster up that bullpen. It definitely helped. It just didn't happen to work out. But it's just always, it's always kind of fun to see how everything can lead back to Nick Madrigal.
Right.
Poor guy.
White Sox now in the Cubs. So
the way that you explain like the trade, like how you feel about that trade, is how I have put myself into thinking about the Quintana trade at this point. Because yes, the Cubs lost that trade. I will full-heartedly agree, and everyone believes that.
Oh yeah.
But so many Cubs fans feel like Quintana was just absolute garbage for the Cubs, and that Theo and Jed were just complete morons for doing that. And the reason that I don't think they're complete morons is because they were going for it, just like how Greg just explained what the White Sox were doing when trying to get Kimbrel. And yes, do I wish that they probably had Dylan Cease right now? Yes. I mean, I miss Dylan Cease more than I do Eloy Jimenez, because at the time, where was Eloy going to play with the outfield the Cubs had? They weren't going to DFA Jason Hayward, and Kyle Schwarber was in left field. I don't know where he was going to play.
He was blocked at the time,
right.
So.
But Dylan Cease, for a team that really lacked homegrown pitching, yes, that's who I miss. But what I've talked myself into feeling about that trade at this point is that Theo and Jed, the Cubs started hot in that second half of 2017, and they were like, okay, we need one more guy who can not only help us this year, but we're going to have controllable years of him for a few more years, and he's going to be cheap. Let's go get this guy. He has a history of being very good, all that stuff. And Jose Quintana, the thing that sucks the most for him especially, is that he just didn't live up to number one, number two starter of the rotation type stuff. He was a very solid 3-4 in the Cubs rotation from the second half of 2017 till the end of his tenure, 2019 basically, because he didn't pitch in 2020 because he got hurt washing dishes. Hell of a story.
Yeah, that's right.
but like, I always thought that he at least went out there and gave you a productive outing. And like Herb Lawrence says it the best at for the Sox, or he'll just say in the office. He said it many times, is like, the best ability is availability. He was always available. He would give you 30 starts a year. He just didn't live up to the hype of being like taking over the Cubs rotation and replacing, I guess, John Lester's back end of his career years. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what sucks the most about that. In hindsight, I would tell Theo and Jed did not do that. But like, whenever your team is on the brink of like maybe being one or two pieces away, you want a front office who is going to do whatever it takes to get that missing piece that the team had. And Theo and Jed did that. It worked in 16. It just didn't in 17. And unfortunately, like, because they made it with the White Sox, we have to sit here and see, really be a Cy Young candidate this year. Or, and we've seen Eloy. If he could stay healthy, he could be a 40 home run a year guy.
Yeah, the potential's there. Just hasn't stayed healthy.
Just put him in a bubble.
Yeah,
like you said too, with Quintana, he had the control, but he also his contract was very affordable. Thank you, Rick Hahn. So that kind of got you some saved you some money to bring in a big free agent like you, Darvish, too. I mean, say how that kind of worked, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely a way to look at to kind of revisit the trade and something that makes sense. I mean, it's still painful, obviously, but
for sure.
It's kind of the way you have to look at it, I suppose. So
what's more painful is that Jose Quintana is pitching like a number one guy for the Pirates this year.
Right.
That's more painful than me having to watch Eloy and Cease be really good for the White Sox. You know what I mean?
I think you're right, yeah.
Because like seeing Jose Quintana on the Pirates be like their number one starter and actually really excel at it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. And he's gone up against the Cubs twice this year, and he has shoved both times against them.
He has.
Both times. And it's just like, where was the baseball gods, where do the gods like give us our due? Like, I just feel like the last 3 years it's just been fuck the Cubs from the baseball gods.
I feel like the Pirates fans need something to get excited about. So maybe that's, I mean, God, man, you think the Cubs are poorly run at this point. Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Cody, what has been your favorite moment or memory at Wrigley Field?
Ooh, okay. So I just moved to Chicago, like into the city. I live in Uptown, if you guys know that neighborhood.
Yeah. Sure.
I moved to Uptown in July of last year, actually like a week before the trade deadline. The first game I went to as a resident of Chicago was the Javi Baez walk-off against Amir Garrett, where he did like the sweeping thing or whatever.
Yep.
That was fun. But the reason I mentioned that I've only lived here in Chicago since July of last year is that growing up I didn't get to go to honestly, most Cubs games I went to when I was a kid were in St. Louis.
Sure.
So, as far as my favorite moment at Wrigley Field, I remember 2015 September going on that playoff chase. It was against the Cardinals, and I don't remember what day, but I sat in the 200 section right behind home plate, and I watched Starlin Castro hit 2 homers off the Cardinals that day. And it was like you could just you felt that electricity of like, oh, this team is something. And after watching the rebuild, and like you just saw like all these guys come up and playing well, and like that September 2015 was so fun. And it was like an afternoon game, and I don't remember. I know the Cubs won that day, but like I know that Starlin Castro hit 2 home runs. That was like, as far as like, because the team was good and like it was just fun to be there, and like you were just witnessing just like something special happening. That was probably my favorite game in terms of that. But as just like a pure fan, I was at that opening day 2.0 game last year, Cubs Cardinals, that Anthony Rizzo 14 pitch at bat homer that he hit. I was in left field. I was like plastered with my buddies because it was 2020 was so bad, man. Like, just had to stay inside, didn't get to hang out with my friends, all this shit. I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I went back to Wrigley for like the first 10 times last year, I took full advantage of just being in the public intoxicated a lot. Like, I was just like, I am not taking this for granted. I remember my girlfriend had to come pick me up, and this is when we lived in the suburbs still. She'd come all the way from the North Burbs, pick my ass up in Wrigleyville, and take me home because I was inebriated, and there's a picture out there of me double fisting beers out in left field that day. So the vibe, not only was I vibing with just it was Friday, 120, Cubs, Cardinals. The sun was out in June. It was awesome. But the Cubs came out to win that game. I finally got to. It was the first time I actually saw Rizzo hit a homer in person after so many games I had gone to. I'd never seen him hit a homer in person, and that was the first game. So I got that as a pure fan of just going to any random game. I would say that was probably my favorite like Wrigley Field experience, and it was just nice because like after like watching so many games with no fans in the stands, that place was packed. Justin Fields like was in the stadium that day. Like all the Cubs Hall of Famers like throughout the first pitch, like. It was a great day.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was like a little bit of return of normalcy at least.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly,
I mean?
exactly.
All right. Well, before we get you out of here, because first of all, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We always like to end whenever we do an interview. We like to do some rapid fire questions. So we got a list of questions here. First thing that pops into your mind, and we'll take it from there. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right. Favorite baseball team other than the Cubs? Do you have a backup team?
Man, I always like to talk about jerseys, and I don't know why, but I really, 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 really love the Oakland A's green home jerseys with the yellow. And like, I guess
that was the question. So
yeah, I guess as far as teams, like I really enjoy going to see the Giants out at Oracle Park when I did. Okay. So I guess I'd say them.
I've heard that's a beautiful stadium.
It is. It's my favorite.
Make it out there.
Yeah, it really is my favorite ballpark I've ever been to. So it's like, it even surpasses Wrigley. So
there's something to be said too for that green and yellow, the A's colors. I mean,
that's a great uniform.
Between that and Moneyball, I'll watch A's games on TV just for those two reasons alone. So
yeah.
All right. What about favorite Cubs player of all time?
Oh, Sammy Sosa. It's far and away, just because he's the reason I became a fan. And I will preach forever that he should be welcomed back by the Cubs, and he should be he should have a statue in Statue Row now, and have his number retired, and should be running out to right field with the American flag, and kissing babies in the stands and all that shit. Like he should be welcome back and all of that stuff, man. Like if there's that's another thing. If like the Cubs are going to decide they're just going to suck for a few more years, well then to make fans happy, bring Sammy back.
Yeah.
That is something that I would at least be like, all right, well at least I got this.
Yeah. And that would at least justify the prices maybe a little bit more. At least you could see Sammy,
Yeah. If he was like a team ambassador.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Sammy, really quick, you mentioned before that post about the Cubs players that wore 21 after Sammy Sosa. I can think of 3. Do you remember how many you are?
It's a long list.
Is it really?
It really is. And unfortunately, I like the current guy who's rocking 21, Ethan Roberts. He's been on the IL for a while, but he's rocking 21. And I mean, I hope he's good so he can at least justify it a little bit. But like all the people who have worn 21, they have all had terrible Cubs tenures. I mean, Tyler Chatwood wore 21 one year.
Yeah. Milton Bradley.
Yep. Junior Lake, I think.
Junior Lake. That was
it.
And the third, I thought of 3. It was Junior Lake, Milton Bradley, and Jason Marquis. Those are the 3.
That's right.
Steven Souza wore 21.
Steven Souza,
yeah. There's a long list, man. It's a goddamn shame. It's a shame.
It is. Oh man. I think I know the answer to this one, but favorite sport other than baseball?
It's definitely the NFL.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I hate being a Bears fan.
Oh, I've been begging to try and find a new team to root for like the last 3 years, and I still can't find one. So I hear you.
Outside of the Bears, there's something about Sundays, like on your couch, and you just watch from noon till like 11 p.m. after Sunday night carry. Like it's just nothing like it. Like my girlfriend has to like incorporate how she does things during the week because she knows I'm going to be completely unproductive on Sundays. She just knows it. She hates it. She gets pissed at me about it at least like once every month in the fall, and then we get over it because I don't change. Like it is I have to watch football on Sundays. Absolutely, it is a part of the American life, dude. Yeah, like that's just how it is. So,
favorite logo from any sport?
Oh man. That's different. Like, are we talking like team logos?
Team logos. We're really big logo and jersey nerds on this podcast. So,
shit, you put me on the spot here. I'm trying to think of like some iconic logos here.
I mean, if Cubs is your thing, Cubs logo is your thing. I mean, you could go that route too.
I mean, it's unpopular, but I really do like the Cubs City Connect logo.
Oh, that was my next question is best City Connect uniform.
Between or just all of them or
Oh
Cubs
yeah,
Sox,
between
or?
all of them, I guess. Yeah.
Oh man, it's definitely not the Cubs. The Cubs don't have the best one. I would say that I do really like the Angels one that just came out recently. The White Sox one is really good. It fits like their entire persona with with how they market. There's just like not one of them that I like really
jumps
love.
out.
Yeah, like
what about a worst one? Do you have a least favorite one?
Oh, I hate the Rockies unis.
Really?
Oh wow,
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, I hate the Rockies one. Yeah, I like their hats. I'll give them that. But their jersey looks like their license plate, bro. Like I don't know.
It kind of does.
I didn't even think of that.
It does. It really does with the green.
I wish they would have done something more with like the flag. You know what I mean? And I know Boston did theirs because of like the marathon or whatever.
Yeah, the Patriot Day or whatever. Yellow, yeah.
But I don't like that one either.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Something about being the Red Sox and just wearing yellow just throws me off. And I know the reason. Sense. I get it.
Yeah, yellow and like baby blue or whatever it is. So
I don't. What about if you weren't doing what you do currently for employment, what would be your job if you weren't in sports media?
Oh man. Well, if I could just choose whatever I was going to do, if I wasn't doing this, if I could just choose.
Sure.
I probably would want to still be working like in sports, if it just not in sports media. Like I have a friend who works for the Milwaukee Bucks and he like sells tickets.
Okay.
Does like if working for like a sports franchise, that would be something that I would absolutely love to do, whether it was selling tickets or whatever. I don't know. They don't want me working in their analytics department, that's for sure. But what if it's working in their communications department, like doing media relations with a sports franchise or something like that. That's different than working in sports media, in my opinion. Like I think that would be really cool.
The White Sox might have a managerial opening pretty soon, Cody, if you want to go that route. So
well, I mean, I know TLR isn't big on analytics either.
That's true.
And I've recently become more analytical, but again, they don't want me doing that. So I will say I won't walk a guy automatically after you have a 1-2 count ahead of him.
That might be like the prerequisite to get an interview at this point. I don't know.
At this point, yeah.
What about
the only thing is that job's not opening up until he leaves. We all know that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no one.
In a way,
fired. Yeah.
Sorry, Greg.
In a way, I actually feel bad for Sox fans because you got that core and everything like that, and then to waste it away because of your stupid manager and because your owner can't just get out of his own way.
What about favorite baseball movie of all time?
Oh, Sandlot.
Good choice.
Yeah,
great choice.
There's a lot of good ones. I mean, I do like Field of Dreams. Moneyball is like an all-timer in my opinion too. But Sandlot is one that like I can just turn on and watch anytime. Yeah.
Good call. How about favorite baseball video game?
Oh man. I mean, people love to talk about MVP Baseball 2005 a lot when they talk about retro baseball games. I mean, are we talking? We're talking about video games, right? Or are you
any video game in general? Yeah.
Okay. As far as baseball game, I mean, I remember. I do know the show has really changed a lot since it first came out, but I really loved it when it first came out. For some reason, it just doesn't hit the same now. But like maybe it's just because I'm so used to it. Because you just get used to it. Like you every April you're like, all right, I'm gonna go buy the show. Like you know what I mean? Like
right.
I don't know, but like when it first came out,
my life right now.
Yeah, I changed from Xbox to PlayStation specifically so I could play the show back in the day. You know what I mean? And now you can play them on any system. So like, I don't know, like whatever that first MLB The Show was at whenever.
06, yeah. 2006 was the first one.
Yeah.
It looked and sounded different for sure. So,
yeah.
It was
those
good.
old baseball games were something. I remember Slugfest.
Oh yeah,
great game. Yep.
Yeah. And obviously like the backyard baseball. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I mean, like I said, I've always consistently played like the show. almost every. The last couple of years I hadn't because my life been getting so busy, but
Sure.
I did find a way to buy this year's game. And I'm still having trouble finding time to play it, but when I do, it's still
this whole adult thing really sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really
And then you throw a kid in, and I haven't even, my PS5 is just collecting dust. It's
same. It's sitting right here, and it's got dust on top of it, bro.
bumming me out.
Yeah. Just curious, how'd you get blocked by Yadi Molina?
Oh, on Instagram? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is first off, like I've had over the weekend I had a lot of Cardinal fans that I know that follow me on Twitter. I don't know why they follow me on Twitter. Like we're friends on Facebook, but like they know that like my Twitter it's all designed to just attract Cubs fans. Anyway, I had a few Cardinal fans telling me that I was like that I in fact let Yadi live rent free in my head, even though he got so upset to block me of all people on Instagram because I just told him he was wrong. So in 2020 in like November, you know how they do like the Gold Glove finalists every year or whatever. They announce like the Gold Glove finalists. So in 2020, Yadi wasn't like a Gold Glove finalist for catcher. And he made some Instagram post like going on an absolute rant about how he felt so disrespected by the league because I guess it would have been like if he won the Gold Glove, it would have been like his 10th one or whatever. But if you go, I mean, I don't give two shits about his defensive numbers, but like the guy is literally, even at that point, was past 35 years old, and we played 60 games. There had to be 3 catchers that were playing better than him for those 60 games, in my opinion. And like, I just thought like his rant was just like you are going to go in the Hall of Fame, unfortunately, one day because the media fucking loves you. Like you're going, you're going to go in. Like stop complaining. Like every time he doesn't get his way, he fucking cries and cries some more. That's honestly why I despise him. And I do think he is overrated to an extent of. I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think that he could like get in one day because he was so great defensively and he played for a long time. But in my opinion, he's like the Frank Gore of baseball. Like there's nothing special.
That's a good comp. Yeah.
There's nothing special about his career. Like you look at Frank Gore's like career, like he somehow is like in the top 5 of like rushing and for running backs. But like when you think of Frank Gore, is there like one season that sticks out to you about his career, or like was there a game that he had that sticks out to you in his career? Like no. And there's nothing like that for Yadi either, because he's literally longevity, and he was carried by Albert Pujols and then a few other guys in the 2010s that went to the World Series and won in 2011. So he won a World Series like I said, David fucking Freese, and then went to the World Series in 2013 because the rest of the roster fucked around and was good. He's never been a reason a team won the World Series or was good outside of like being good defensively. And you know what? If they're going to put Ozzie Smith in there with his average offensive numbers, then he's probably going to get in. But I just don't think he's first ballot material. Does he get in eventually? Yeah, because again, the media liked him, and we could sit here and talk. We could sit here for a whole another half hour, and I'll tell you about how the MLB Hall, or not the MLB, but just the Baseball Hall of Fame is just fucking fucked up with like their hypocrisy on how they let people in this bitch.
Oh yeah,
and like to me, the fact that Yadi's gonna get in one day and Sammy Sosa isn't is a goddamn shame. Like, I'm sorry. One guy saved baseball and the other one just played a long time. That's just my opinion. So
that's a good point.
You're not wrong.
I know I'm not wrong. But again, so he made this post and was just like complaining about not being a Hall of Famer. And all I literally said was like, "You're wrong." And he blocked me. I was like, I didn't even like call him a name or anything like that. I didn't make no like derogatory joke or anything. I just said, "Dude, you're wrong," and he blocked me. So ever since then, I've just been playing the shtick of I pissed off Yachty so much that he blocked me on Instagram. So like
that's the Cardinal way, you know.
Yeah,
They teach
the
that,
Cardinal
you know,
way.
that
Yeah.
in a bunch of other things they shouldn't be doing over there.
But like I had some Cardinal fans who just like they're probably just so tired of me slandering Yachty, but I just I just don't care. Like at the end of the day, I just don't care.
Let him have it.
Yeah.
So,
how about a favorite person you've interviewed?
oh man. Okay, so I'll give you two. So out of Cubs players, I've interviewed a few Cubs players. When I was with Cubs on Tap, I got to talk to Justin Steele.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was earlier this year, actually, before I got the job with CHGO. And he's just a great dude to talk to. And that guy would have sat there and talked to you about the one time he got a hit off Corbin Burns and his one major league hit. He would have sat there and talked to you about that for probably 45 minutes if you let him. So yeah, as far as Cubs players, that's my favorite one that I've gotten to interview. Tony Campana is a close second.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Nice.
Yeah. As far as just anyone else or just in general, media personalities, I got to talk to Jared Carrabis a few years ago. And he's just a great baseball personality.
Yeah.
I know he's not with Barstool anymore, and I know that comes with like a what do you call it? I can't think of the word.
Like some baggage, kind of. Almost.
Yeah, some baggage. There you go. Yeah. But he's just a fun conversation if you're talking baseball with someone. So
awesome.
he was really fun to talk to, and like getting like kind of what you guys did with me tonight, getting to talk to him about like his come up and stuff was really interesting, and it was kind of inspiring. So it's things like that when you talk to people who've been in the industry and they tell you about how they made their way up and everything, that was the kind of stuff that kind of kept me going into doing this and stuff. So it was really cool
for sure.
Nice. My last one before I have Vinny finish it off here. When the lockout was going on, we kind of jumped on the Bulls a little bit because we had nothing else to watch and really enjoyed our time watching the Bulls. But is there a must-add player for the Bulls this offseason, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know who's a free agent. I follow the Bulls, and like I'm the biggest D-Rose stan from back in the day. I just watched The Last Dance with my brother for the first time. Like I had already seen it, but he hadn't seen it.
So good.
So it's so good. But as far as the current Bulls, all I can say is that they need to add someone on the interior at center, like with some size, get some rebounding. I'm tired of seeing them get just murdered on the inside and just show how soft they are. I know Rudy Gobert has like kind of been in like the rumored conversation, but I off the top of my head, I don't know who any free agents, big men are out there.
Yeah.
But I just hope that they fix that hole, because I think the hate that Vucevic gets is a little over the top, but I understand that his defense isn't why he's there. He's there for offense. And if you can get the offense from him, but have another guy in there that can help you, defensively and rebound, then who knows? Maybe this team finally can, at least get past the first round.
What a concept.
Right. And, I know a lot of people are out on or don't think Zach is worth the max either, but I'm at the point where it's like, who else is there to go get?
To come,
and like DeMar's, he's going to be in the back end of his prime here in the next year at least. As much as I love Io, I loved Illinois basketball, so I watched him in college. But I don't know if he can develop into a star. I hope he, I hope he comes back and plays even better than last year. But the Bulls they should not be banking on that if they didn't give Zach the max. So, my hope is that Io comes back and becomes a really solid either. Because I don't know if Lonzo is going to be healthy or if he can stay healthy, but I hope Io can become a really solid 6-man off the bench. And then you got Zach, DeMar, Patrick Williams stays healthy. You can use him as a really solid piece off the bench too. And just start making threes, bro, and start rebounding. Like that. Those are the two things. Like that's what that team needs. But I was with you guys during the lockout. The Bulls were kind of like carrying us, right?
Oh yeah.
Pretty much. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was telling Greg, I'm like, you got to start watching them. It's just like, well, you guys are a little bit younger than me. But I'm like, it's just like in the 90s. It's so exciting again. It's so fun. Maybe
just
oversold.
Like the 90s.
Just maybe oversold it a little bit,
Yeah, just a little bit.
When I say 90, I meant 1999.
13 victories that year.
Elton Brand and oh boy. Yeah. So
when I was watching The Last Dance this past couple of days, I reconfirmed that my favorite episode for sure was the Rodman episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Is reconfirmed. Like I would just love to see one athlete just hop on their motorcycle with an open Miller Lite and just drive and then see how the media reacts. I would absolutely love to see that because holy shit, would that person get murdered by the media and social media.
Well, for me watching that, when the pandemic started, I remember as a kid, like I was all in on the Bulls. I don't really remember the first three-peat, but the second three-peat I remember really well. And I just remember like, oh, Dennis Rodman's out again. Oh, and I never paid attention to why. And now hearing like, oh, he just disappeared. People didn't know where he was. Like, wow. Okay, that makes sense. So
yeah, like when he went to to do the wrestling stunt or whatever.
Yeah, with WCW.
Yeah. Wild stuff. Like you're just not gonna ever see that in today's age, and like that's why I love that episode so much because it's just like so many things, and the fact that Jerry Krause was so open about how he wasn't bringing anyone back and all this is like, are you serious? Like, fuck you, dude. Like,
without a doubt.
Yeah. Oh man.
All right. Justin Fields, is he yay or nay going to be the best QB from his draft class?
Well, I can tell you this. I think he'll be better than Mac Jones. And I don't think that's like a hot take. I think he'll be. I want to believe that he'll be the best QB from his draft class, but it's hard to believe because the Bears are the Bears, and they don't know how to develop quarterbacks. They don't know how to develop quarterbacks, and they don't know how to put players in position to succeed. I feel like Mitch Trubisky is a great example of that. I'm not a Mitch truther, but I do think Mitch Trubisky was better than what people want to give him credit for. But also, like Matt Nagy and that coaching staff did not put him in position to succeed enough. The amount of times that they would just make him do the same thing when he consistently showed that if you just got him out of the pocket and on a rollout or something, that he showed he could be average or something, and then you didn't do it. It was just it made me want to pull my hair out. It almost made me not want to be a Bear. Like I almost just said, I'm done watching this team. And then they drafted Justin Fields. So I was like, all right, well, you reeled me back in. Thanks. Don't fuck this up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So
what do you think
I'm hopeful.
What do you think the Bears' record's going to be this upcoming season?
Oh, man. Well, they're at least getting 2 wins from the Lions, hopefully. The Lions look like a team that can be better than them in some aspects, maybe.
That's a scary thought,
Yeah, I know. Realistically, I think they could win 6 games. I think Vegas has them has the over-under at 6.5.
Yeah.
I think they could win 6. I mean, I look forward to the Lovie Smith revenge game against the Texans. They could win that game. I really just like, how I said earlier, how like the baseball gods are just like, fuck the Cubs. Like I would like the football gods to just be like, all right, Bears, we'll give you this one. And then Justin Fields just like puts Aaron Rodgers into retirement. I would love to see that just one time, like just beat the Packers one time in a big game that matters. You know what I mean? Like whether it's at Lambeau or at Soldier Field, I don't care. The thing is like about Aaron Rodgers is like I actually like really respected him for a long time. I don't know if are you guys all Bears fans, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay. So I know a lot of Cubs fans or Sox fans who are also Packers fans. It disgusts me, but
no, not good.
But like Aaron Rodgers this past year, like every Tuesday on the McAfee show, just saying so much bullshit. Like, dude, shut up. I don't care. Like, I don't care. He really turned himself into a heel this past year.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And like, I used to really like I didn't like him because he was because he beat the Bears all the time. But I always was like, I at least respect the guy for
appreciate his skills.
Yeah, I can appreciate that he's probably, going to be a Hall of Famer one day.
Yeah.
But now I want him to quite literally to like get bullied on a football field by some linebackers or something. You know what I mean? Like I cannot stand him. So I would love nothing more than the Bears to just like put Aaron Rodgers into retirement. I mean, I don't know if this year is going to be his last year or whatever it is, but I'm not optimistic about the Bears season. If I don't know if 6 wins means that we're still going to see Justin Fields show growth and be good, but that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that we are like, all right, at least we have the quarterback. Let's fix the rest of us, right?
Right.
Aaron Rodgers. I used to always be like, oh, that's such a shame. Like his family doesn't really talk to him, or whatever the situation was. And I always thought it was the family. This year has proven, no. He's the loon in the family that nobody wants to deal with anymore, for sure. So
for sure,
without a doubt.
And I just learned his new girlfriend. Her name is Blue of Earth or something like that. You guys see that on the internet?
Geez, no, I did not.
Apparently she apparently she does like black magic or some shit. Like she's like a witch.
Oh,
or
this
something.
totally fits too. Like
I'm not bullshitting you either. Like you got to go search this shit.
He's got to just progressively amp up the like lunacy like every season now. You know what I mean? Well, Cody, thank you so much. We ran super long, so I apologize for taking up your whole night.
It's totally fine,
Thank you
guys.
so much. If you are listening on the podcast feed, again, you can reach us in a variety of ways. We are on Twitter at Baseball and What, Instagram at Baseball and Whatever. You can email us at baseballandwhatever@gmail.com. Or if you want to email us at the official Belly Up Sports, our sponsor network is Baseball and Whatever podcast at bellyupsports.com. We're on all podcast apps. You can find us on youtube.com/baseball and whatever and twitch.tv/baseball and whatever for all you kids out there that are into Twitch. And last but not least, you can text us or leave us a voicemail at 913-808-3278. That number again is 1-913-808-3278. Unless, Vinny, do you have the soundboard ready or no?
I don't.
Okay, good. Then I won't go there. All right. So that's it. We'll be back next week with another baseball, whatever. Don't forget, check out Cody at Cody_CHGO on Twitter and Cubs_CHGO on Twitter as well. Or go to their website and check out allchgo.com. Cody, thank you again. We'll try not to bother you too much again in the future, but we'll have to do this again sometime. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks again, guys. Also, Zach Richardson in the comments, he left this comment like 52 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it's one of Vinny's buddies.
I've been wanting to point it out, but I just haven't found the time. But he says, did you guys ever get upset when you order a large pepperoni pizza and they deliver a big sausage pizza? No, that's never happened to me, but at least they didn't completely fuck it up because I like both. So I just wanted to say that.
Zach is a doctor, if I'm not mistaken, right, Vinny?
Yes, he is.
Okay, well, just making sure. And I saw Greg, your wife, wrote it and said she wanted Cody's unbiased opinion. What do you like more? Not Comiskey, Guaranteed Rate or Wrigley, but I would imagine you're a Cubs fan. It's probably going to be a little biased, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still call it the Cell. I've been to the Cell. We're doing the CHGO White Sox guys are actually doing a tailgate.
Yep.
Nice.
June 22nd. Go over to their Twitter page. There'll be more information. I think they have a pinned tweet about it. But I think the food at the Cell is better than at Wrigley. But I mean, my bias is always going to say Wrigley over them.
Yeah.
So.
All right. All right, well, we will end it on that note. Cody, thanks again. Make sure you check out CHGO. Greg, Vinny, I will see you. Well, actually, I won't. I'll be on vacation next week, so you guys are going to be running solo next week. But try not to break anything in StreamYard, and we will see you next time on Baseball and Whatever. Thanks again, everybody.